Not everyone who smiles at you wishes you well. Some people hate you in silence, even if they never admit it. Sometimes it's not because of something you've done, but what you represent. Your confidence reminds them of their insecurity. Your authenticity makes them uncomfortable because they live pretending. Your independence exposes their dependence. The hatred they carry does not speak of your value. It speaks of their wounds. This silent rejection often disguises itself as heavy jokes, veiled criticisms, or calculated indifference. And if you don't understand it, you could make the mistake of questioning yourself. Stoicism teaches that the problem is never in the opinions of others, but in how you decide to react to them. There are those who cannot stand your success, others envy your discipline, or cannot tolerate that you do not need their approval. All of this is not a reflection of who you are, but of what you awaken in them. That's why you can't waste your energy trying to please or justify yourself to those who have already decided to see you as an enemy. True strength lies in not letting their poison penetrate your mind. Staying serene in the face of passive attack, firm in the face of unfair criticism, and cold in the face of manipulation is what gives you an advantage. It's not pride, it's self-control. In this video, we will unravel the 8 hidden reasons why some might hate you without saying it, and I will show you how to respond with the calm, detachment, and clarity that the Stoics practiced. Not to make you invulnerable to hate, but to teach you that none of that should break your inner peace or your dignity. 1. Master what is under your control. The first blow you must strike against others' hatred is not directed at them, but at yourself, mastering what is in your hands. Most people make the mistake of fighting against ghosts, trying to control the opinion, the gaze, or the judgment of others. This is the direct path to frustration, because you can never enter someone else's mind to convince them to stop despising you. The only thing you can really govern are your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions. Everything else is foreign territory. The Stoics insisted on this uncomfortable truth. Suffering for what you do not control is to surrender your power voluntarily. If someone hates you for your success, it is not your duty to reduce your achievements to calm their envy. If they detest you for your confidence, you do not have to pretend insecurity to appear less threatening. If they feel uncomfortable with your authenticity, you should not disguise yourself as what they expect to see. The mistake is to believe that you can adjust their perception to please them. That is the game you should never play. Mastering what you control means learning to control your response. You cannot prevent them from criticizing your character, but you can decide not to respond with anger. You cannot prevent them from inventing rumors, but you can choose to maintain your composure and not feed the fire with your indignation. You cannot silence their envy, but you can ensure that their poison does not touch your mind. This is the freedom that Stoicism defended, that of the spirit that does not bend to the external. The silent aggressiveness of some may provoke you to attack, to prove that you are not weak. But giving into the impulse is to fall into their game. Standing firm and cold disarms them more than any argument. Marcus Aurelius summed it up by saying that the real damage does not come from what others say or do, but from how you allow it to affect you. If the hatred of others manages to disturb you, the problem is no longer theirs, but yours for giving up control of your interior. To practice this advice, start each day reminding yourself what depends on you and what does not. Make a mental inventory. Your discipline, your attitude, your character, your self-control are yours. Their envy, their attacks, their opinions are not. Every time someone provokes you, repeat silently, "This is out of my control." That phrase, simple but powerful, will remind you that the real battlefield is your mind. Mastering what is under your control is not resignation, it is strategy. It is refusing to be a puppet of others' emotions. Whoever achieves this has already won half the war against hatred, because no enemy can steal peace from someone who completely belongs to themselves. 2. Respond with calm, not with anger. Fury is a poison that first destroys the one who carries it within. Many fall into the trap of believing that reacting with shouts or attacks shows strength, but the truth is that nothing reveals more weakness than losing control when provoked. When someone secretly hates you, they usually look for cracks in your calm to shake you. If you respond with anger, you give them exactly what they want, the power to drag you down to their level. Stoicism teaches that you cannot control the first blow you receive, but you can control how you return it. Calm is not passivity, it is strategy. Think of fire. It feeds on fuel, and if you give it nothing, it ends up extinguishing. The hatred of others works the same way. When your response is calm and firm, hostility runs out of strength to keep burning. Anger, on the other hand, clouds judgment and turns intelligent people into easy prey for manipulation. A hurtful comment, an unfair criticism, or a mockery can ignite that spark, but that's where your self-control comes in. It's not about swallowing everything in silence, but about deciding when and how to respond. Calm does not mean enduring humiliations. It means that you respond only when emotion no longer dictates your words. Imagine someone throwing an accusation at you in front of others. If you react with fury, shouting in defense, everyone will see your lack of control, not their injustice. But if you respond with serenity, pointing out the error with facts, you show that your character is stronger than their attacks. Calm is a psychological weapon. It disarms the aggressor and at the same time inspires respect in those who observe. Marcus Aurelius warned that the best way to avenge an insult is not to resemble the one who uttered it. By responding with calm, you do not imitate the poison of others, nor do you become an accomplice to their misery. It is a way to make it clear that their hatred does not govern your mood. Practicing this calm requires training. Start by recognizing the first reaction of your body, the accelerated pulse, the heat in your face, the tension in your voice. At that moment, take a deep breath and remember that it is not the attack that defines your response, but your conscious decision. Ask yourself this question: do I want to give them control over my peace? The answer should always be no. Responding with calm does not mean always being silent. It means speaking firmly but without rage. It means knowing when silence is more forceful than words, and when a clear, brief, and serene phrase can cut the poison at its root. This mastery makes you someone impossible to manipulate. Whoever manages to maintain calm in the midst of the storm projects a power that intimidates more than any shout. Because in the end, the true authority is not held by the one who makes the most noise, but by the one who never loses serenity. 3. Defend your authenticity. One of the biggest provocations for those who secretly hate you is to see you walk without masks. Authenticity is uncomfortable because it acts like a mirror that reflects the contradictions of others. When you are genuine, you expose, without intending to, what others hide for fear of judgment. That's why they will try to ridicule you, isolate you, or make you doubt yourself. They can't stand that you are free in a world that has them chained to appearances. Defending your authenticity does not mean being stubborn or defying everyone out of rebellion. It's about refusing to mold yourself to fit into others' molds. The moment you give up who you are to please, you hand over control of your identity. That is the silent triumph that many envious people seek, to see you give up your essence, to feel that they have power over you. Stoicism reminds you that the only life you can fully live is your own. Marcus Aurelius warned that wasting time arguing about what a good man should be is wasted time. Be a good man. In other words, don't wear yourself out defending your authenticity with endless speeches. Demonstrate it with actions, with consistency between what you think, say, and do. There will be those who mock your way of dressing, your way of speaking, or the decisions you make to maintain your peace. These attacks are often a desperate attempt to push you towards uniformity. Every time you stand firm, you remind them that it is possible to live according to your own values, and that hurts them because it reveals their lack of courage to do the same. Defending your authenticity also means accepting the cost. You will lose the approval of some and the sympathy of others. But there is no greater slavery than living disguised just to avoid rejection. Seneca said that he is not free who is bound by the opinion of others. Breaking these chains requires courage, but that inner freedom is the foundation of serenity. To practice this principle, start by identifying in which aspects of your life you have been giving in to please. Ask yourself if these gestures are reasonable concessions or sacrifices of your essence. Then set clear boundaries. You don't need to justify your choices to those who never cared to understand them. Authenticity is upheld in small actions, refusing to participate in conversations that contradict your values, maintaining habits that strengthen your character even if they are unpopular, and speaking truthfully even if it is not comfortable. Whoever defends their authenticity sends a signal that bothers the insecure. It shows that they do not need masks to feel valuable. That is the real threat to those who live off the approval of others. Staying true to yourself not only protects your peace, but it turns the hatred of others into distant noise, incapable of breaking your integrity. 4. Turn criticism into strength. Criticism has two faces, the one that hurts and the one that teaches. Most people only see the first and react with anger or sadness, but the Stoics saw in criticism a raw material to forge character. If you allow the words of others to become blows to the ego, you lose. But if you transform them into lessons, you strengthen. What others use to hurt you can become the hammer that hardens your metal. Many of those who criticize you do not seek to help you improve. They want to belittle you to feel less small. When you manage to recognize this intention, criticism loses its edge. You don't need to defend yourself from every unfair comment because you understand that it is not directed at your real worth, but at the reflection they project of themselves. This change of perspective is what makes the difference between falling into the wound or standing up stronger. Stoicism teaches that you have no control over the words others throw, but you do over the use you give them. An unfair criticism can be a reminder to polish your patience. A sarcastic attack can train your self-control. Even an insult can show you the weak points of your character if it still affects you too much. Thus, every arrow thrown by the hostility of others becomes a resource for your own growth. Imagine iron. It does not become stronger by remaining intact, but by going through fire and blows. Likewise, each criticism is an opportunity to harden your emotional discipline. If someone questions your work, ask yourself honestly if there is something you can improve. If there isn't, let their words get lost in the air because they don't deserve space in your mind. If there is, be grateful that they pointed out a blind spot. The common mistake is to react immediately. Responding with fury to unfair criticism is like trying to put out fire with gasoline. You only fan the conflict. The most powerful response is silent action, to demonstrate with deeds, not words, that every attempt to sink you became a drive to move forward. Seneca said, "The strong man is the one who overcomes adversity with reason, not with complaint." Every time you transform poison into fuel, you demonstrate strength. This attitude intimidates those who expect to see you fall, because nothing disconcerts a critic more than seeing that their words made you more resilient. To practice it, write down the criticisms that affect you the most and analyze them coldly. Do they contain something you can use to improve? If not, discard them. If so, act accordingly. Do it without resentment, without rancor. Turn it into a constant exercise of self-improvement. When you manage to transform each criticism into strength, you stop being a victim of hostility and become someone who grows with each attack. That is the most silent and effective revenge, to move forward while others consume themselves in their own poison. 5. Set boundaries that protect your peace. There are people who do not attack with screams or blows, but with small invasions that seem harmless. Sarcastic comments disguised as jokes, questions that cross intimacy, demands that do not correspond to you. If you don't put a stop to it, every step you give in will turn into lost ground. Whoever learns to set boundaries ceases to be an easy target for silent hatred and manipulation. Stoicism teaches that your inner peace is a sacred good. Marcus Aurelius reminded that the mind should be a citadel, a safe place that no one can enter without your permission. Allowing others to cross that wall with constant criticisms, unfair demands, or emotional blackmail is opening the door to chaos. The first step to protect that citadel is to clearly define what you will tolerate and what you will not. Many avoid setting boundaries for fear of appearing selfish, but there is nothing more harmful than sacrificing your tranquility to keep those who do not respect your space happy. Those who benefit from your silence often accuse you of being cold or distant when you start to protect yourself. This is not a sign that you are acting wrong, but that your change exposes their abuses. Setting boundaries does not mean erecting insurmountable walls against everyone. It means learning to say no when a favor becomes an obligation, when a comment hurts under the guise of concern, or when someone demands your time as if it were a right. A firm and serene no is enough to mark the territory. If they get angry, it's because they were not interested in you, but in what they could get from you. Secret hatred often arises when you stop pleasing. There will be those who call you arrogant for taking care of your energy, but that is the price of authenticity. Seneca warned that whoever wants to be respected must start by respecting himself. Each boundary you set is an act of respect towards you and a silent lesson for others. Practicing it requires courage, because saying enough will not always be well received. Start by identifying the situations that drain your peace the most. People who interrupt your rest, who give their opinion without you asking for it, who demand your attention at all times. Then communicate your boundaries firmly, without excuses or long explanations. Clarity is your ally. You don't need to shout or justify yourself. Being consistent is enough. If you give in once, the boundary ceases to exist. Maintaining it is a training of emotional discipline, because it teaches you to resist the pressure to please. Whoever does not respect your boundaries shows you that they do not respect your value. When you set boundaries that protect your peace, the hatred of some may intensify, but it loses its power over you. They lose the ability to manipulate you, and you gain control over your mental space. Thus, your peace stops depending on the behavior of others and becomes a decision that no one can take away from you, and so it should be. 6. Free yourself from the approval of others. There is no heavier chain than living in constant need of pleasing everyone. It's the mistake that makes you a prisoner of their gestures, their words, their silences. As long as you continue to measure your worth through the eyes of others, any criticism will be a blow, and any rejection an open wound. This emotional dependency is precisely what fuels silent hatred. People perceive your need to be accepted and use it against you. Stoicism warns that the greatest enemy of inner freedom is the desire to please. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that you only need the approval of your own conscience. If you act with virtue, you have already fulfilled the only judge that matters. The rest is noise. This perspective discomforts those who seek to control you because their favorite weapon stops working, your fear of what they will say. There are those who envy your ability to be yourself, but there are also those who enjoy seeing you beg for attention. If you fall into this trap, you end up shaping your words, your style, and even your decisions to earn applause that never comes. And when you finally get it, you discover that it was not enough, because there will always be someone who finds another reason to criticize you. Living like this is like chasing a shadow. Freeing yourself from the approval of others does not mean becoming indifferent to the world or closing your ears to good advice. It means that external opinions no longer determine your identity or your peace. You can listen, learn, and change when it is sensible, but by your own choice, not out of fear of rejection. This detachment disarms those who secretly hate you. Many of them expect their comments to shake you, their criticisms to disturb you, When they see that they cannot move your center, their hostility wears out on its own. It's like throwing stones at a wall. They tire before they can bring it down. To practice it, start by observing how many of your daily decisions are driven by the idea of what will they think. Ask yourself if that voice that stops you comes from a principle of yours or from someone else's expectation. Each time you act according to your values, even if not everyone approves, you are breaking a link in that invisible chain. Feel the relief of not having to explain every step you take. Feel the strength of not depending on praise to feel valid. And if someone tries to humiliate you, to make you lose your composure, respond with the silence of someone who no longer seeks to be understood by those who have never wanted to understand. Seneca said it clearly. He is a slave who depends on many masters, even if he calls himself free. Freeing yourself from the approval of others is letting go of the strings that others use to manipulate your mood. Only then does criticism stop being a whip and becomes a simple echo that does not reach your center. That is true independence, being the owner of your worth, not of applause. 7. Strengthen your inner discipline. Most people believe that discipline is just about waking up early or sticking to strict routines, but true discipline begins in the mind. It's the invisible force that keeps you calm when someone tries to provoke you, the one that prevents you from succumbing to resentment when you feel the sting of injustice. Without inner discipline, any external hostility finds a crack to sneak in and destabilize you. Secret hatred often feeds on impulsive reactions. Whoever manages to make you lose control has already won half the battle, because they turn your emotion into a spectacle. Inner discipline is not an armor that blocks pain, but a trained muscle that allows you to resist it without breaking. Epictetus said that no man is free if he does not know how to govern himself. That is the essence of this point, being the master of your impulses. Strengthening your discipline does not mean repressing yourself until you become stone. It's about training the mind so that your decisions do not depend on what you feel in a moment of anger or fear. It means learning to pause before responding, to breathe before attacking, to think before reacting. That second of pause, which seems insignificant, is the distance that separates the wise from the impulsive. Imagine discipline as the rudder of a ship in the middle of a storm. It does not prevent the wind from blowing or the waves from hitting, but it prevents the ship from sinking due to lack of control. This is how inner discipline acts in the face of others' hatred. It maintains the course of your character when provocation tries to divert you. To cultivate it, you need habits that reinforce your mind. Stoic meditation, reflecting each night on your actions and each morning on the day you will face, is a practice that forges mental resilience. Daily self-control in small things, like keeping your promises or resisting the urge to respond to messages with anger, prepares the ground for the big moments. Inner discipline also involves ordering your priorities. When you know what is essential and what is noise, you do not scatter in useless discussions, nor waste energy proving your worth. Hostile people lose power over you because they cannot drag you off your axis. By strengthening your discipline, you begin to notice that you no longer react with the same anger to provocations. What used to make you lose your cool now only generates a slight discomfort that you handle with serenity. This silent progress intimidates those who expect to see you explode. Others' hatred will never completely disappear, but inner discipline allows you to face it without becoming its reflection. An undisciplined character breaks at the first attack. A disciplined one stands firm even in the storm. That is the true power, mastering your inner self until nothing external can govern you. 8. Show compassion without yielding power. Many confuse compassion with weakness, as if understanding others were the same as allowing them to trample over you. This idea is false. Stoic compassion does not stem from submission, but from lucidity. You understand that others' hatred does not come from your worth, but from their own wounds. You see their anger, their envy, their resentment, and instead of feeding the conflict, you decide not to fall into their game. This does not make you soft. It makes you aware. Those who hate you in secret often seek for you to respond with the same hostility to justify their contempt. Showing compassion breaks this cycle because you deny them the emotional fuel they expect. It does not mean forgiving any harm or letting injustices go. It means not wishing them harm and not carrying their poison. Compassion is, in a way, a form of self-protection. It prevents others' resentment from becoming your own. Stoicism teaches that all human beings act according to their understanding of the world. Often attacks come from ignorance, fear, or pain. Understanding this does not justify their actions, but it frees you from taking them as personal offenses. Marcus Aurelius said it is absurd to get angry with the thorns of a rose for pricking you. The thorn fulfills its nature. In the same way, those who act with malice only reveal their inner state. Showing compassion does not mean offering your energy to those who only want to drain it. This is where the second part comes in, not yielding power. You can treat someone with respect while denying them access to your intimacy. You can help someone who is suffering without allowing them to abuse your generosity. True compassion includes clear boundaries, because without them it becomes useless sacrifice. Practicing this principle requires emotional strength. First, learn to separate the person's behavior. You do not justify their actions, but you recognize that their emotions are not yours. Second, avoid responding to harm with resentment. Respond with firmness and, if necessary, with distance. Sometimes, compassion is expressed by moving away so as not to allow their bitterness to continue affecting you. When you achieve this balance, others' hatred loses impact. You no longer react with anger or submission, but with a calm that baffles. They expect aggressive resistance or total surrender, but instead they find respect accompanied by boundaries. It is a stance that intimidates more than any confrontation because it reveals that they cannot manipulate you through guilt or fear. Compassion without yielding power is a sign of Stoic maturity. You recognize others' suffering without carrying it on your shoulders. It shows that you are capable of understanding the origin of their hostility without letting that understanding erode your dignity. Whoever masters this art walks with serenity even among enemies, because their peace does not depend on the peace of others. 9. Speak less, show more. Silence is an underrated weapon in a world that never stops talking. Many believe that constantly explaining themselves will earn them respect or understanding, but in reality, the more you justify yourself, the more ammunition you give to those who seek to attack you. Speaking less doesn't mean hiding. It means choosing when and what is worth saying. Whoever knows how to be silent at the right time conveys a power that intimidates more than any speech. Stoicism taught that actions weigh more than words. Seneca warned that it is preferable to show virtue than to proclaim it. When facing hostility, the most common mistake is trying to convince everyone of your innocence or prove, with words, that you are better than what they say. But the respect you seek does not come from explanations. It comes from your consistent behavior. Speaking less is not running from conflicts. It is mastering the impulse to react to every provocation. When someone throws unfair criticism at you, silence can be the most forceful response, not because you agree, but because you are not going to give them the satisfaction of seeing you upset. Every unnecessary reply fuels the adversary's game. This does not mean keeping silent in the face of serious injustice. It means not wasting words on useless arguments. Responding only when it is indispensable gives you an aura of control, like someone who does not need to shout to be heard. On the other hand, whoever responds to everything ends up exhausted and loses credibility. Practicing this requires courage, because the impulse to defend oneself is strong. Start by observing how many times in the day you speak just to clarify misunderstandings that change nothing or to gain the approval of others. Most of these words are dispensable. Train yourself to pause before responding and ask yourself, does what I'm about to say change anything real? If the answer is no, remain silent. Your selective silence also unmasks the hostile. Whoever seeks to provoke you feels frustrated when they get no reaction, and their own attitude is exposed to others. It's like throwing punches in the air. The aggressor ends up tired and ridiculous. Speaking less also implies showing more through actions. If they question your ability, let your work speak. If they doubt your character, let time show your consistency. Results are evidence that no argument can deny. The power of speaking less does not lie in hiding, but in controlling the flow of your energy. Each word you save becomes strength to act. Every unnecessary explanation you omit is a wall that protects your inner peace. Whoever masters this principle learns that true respect is not asked for or demanded. It is earned with deeds and with a calmness that disarms anyone. When you speak less and show more, the hatred of others becomes background noise, unable to interrupt the course of your purpose. 10. Accept rejection without losing your cool. Rejection is one of the hardest blows to take because it hurts where it hurts most. The human desire to belong. But the rejection of others almost never speaks of your true worth. Rather, it reveals their limits, their prejudices, or their fears. When you understand this, you stop seeing it as a verdict on who you are and see it for what it really is, a choice by the other person that does not define your essence. Many react to rejection with anger, resentment, or anxiety, trying to prove that they are worthy of being accepted. This is the mistake that makes you vulnerable. The moment you try to convince someone who has already decided to close the door on you is the instant you hand over control of your peace. Stoicism teaches that nothing external, neither praise nor rejection, should alter the dominion you have over your inner self. Accepting rejection does not mean resigning yourself or allowing humiliations. It means assuming that you cannot force the will of others and that their approval is not necessary to live with dignity. Epictetus reminded us that suffering arises not from what happens, but from the interpretation we make of what happens. If you see rejection as a personal offense, it sinks you. If you see it as someone else's decision, you simply move on. Calmness in the face of rejection disconcerts those who expect to see you weakened. When someone perceives that their disapproval does not destabilize you, they lose their power over you. This is crucial in dealing with those who secretly hate you. Their goal is usually to isolate you, make you doubt yourself, and nothing disarms them more than seeing you unperturbed while you calmly close the door they try to use to hurt you. To practice this principle, you must strengthen your awareness of your own worth. Take inventory of your achievements, the principles that guide your actions, and the qualities that do not depend on external opinions. Each time you face a rejection, remind yourself, this does not change who I am or what I am worth. This affirmation is an anchor that prevents the waves of disapproval from dragging you away. It also helps to change the narrative. Rejection is not always a loss. Often it is a liberation. It saves you from harmful relationships, separates you from toxic environments, and opens up space for paths more in tune with your essence. The serenity with which you accept it defines how much it will hurt you or how much it will propel you. When you accept rejection without losing your cool, you project a type of strength that few understand, that of someone who knows that their worth does not depend on the doors of others. In this way, you turn what others see as a blow into an opportunity to reaffirm your emotional independence. In a world where so many live subordinated to the yes of others, being able to move forward with a no is the greatest act of freedom. Thank you for staying until the end of the video. If you watched the whole thing, comment "I am Stoic" as our secret signal to know that you're a true student of Stoicism. Don't forget to subscribe and give the video a like if you enjoyed it. See you in the next video, and remember, keep cultivating your Stoic mind.